So today we're going to be working back on this Timken axles. So the last time that we were here, I pulled one all apart, but we had some problems with getting the pinion out. My puller didn't work that well. As you can see, this is what it looks like. Pretty beat up. The first time it pulled it out and it didn't really give too many problems. When I went back through and tried using it a second time, these bolts started to bend. This really started to, warp and kind of get out of the way. So it got all messed up basically. This here is 3/16 plate. It wasn't thick enough, and these are just grade 2 pieces of all thread, and they got really kind of messed up. What we're gonna do is we're gonna grab a thicker piece of plate. This is 1/2 inch, this is 3/16. This is a lot thicker, a lot heavier duty, and it didn't give me any problems yet, so that's what we're after. So it's the same basic concept as the last one that I made, but we made some upgrades to 1/2 inch plate, plus we got some of these custom little bolts made. The reason that I welded these two together is because I couldn't find grade 8 all thread. So I went and made these guys, which is a coarse thread on one end and it's a fine thread on the other end to thread into here. What I found with this is there's not enough length, because I don't have a good hardware store around here, there's not enough length to go in between here to get this pinion to come all the way out. So I'm limited. So what I'm gonna do, this is our experiment, is I had some leftover all thread from the last one. So I'm gonna thread these in, one on each side, and then I'm gonna use these on the other 4 spots. The reason that I'm gonna do that is because these here can take a lot more force because they're grade 8, they can push a lot harder, and it worked really well the last time. But then once I get this 3/4 of the way out, I need something longer to actually drive it all the way out. You need at least 6 inches of space. This is an 8-inch piece of all thread, so should give us enough room and we shouldn't have any problems. To start, I basically went to my local metal yard, welding shop, any place like that, and I asked if they had any 1/2 inch pieces of plate scrap. And this was just an offcut from one of their previous jobs. And I gave them the retainer that goes around here, which I can show. This piece of plate right here, okay? This plate goes right in here. So I took this down to them. They just took that plate, laid it on top there, and I said, instead of having a big hole, I said I just need a 7/8 hole in there. And they're like, yeah, that's no problem. So this plate here cost about $25. And that included them drilling all the holes in here and lining everything up. It's a fairly simple process, pretty quick. All this hardware right here came from Tractor Supply. So you can get small fine thread bolts and you can get your coarse thread bolts right here, all at Tractor Supply. And to get enough to do all 6 holes, I think it was, again, like $25, give or take. And then these pieces of all thread were just left over from the last one. And I think this was only like $5 for a rod of it. All in all, you're gonna be sitting around $50, give or take, to make one of these pullers. If you're gonna be doing just a one-time deal, pulling it out and that's it, you could probably get away with a thinner piece of plate and getting some cheaper all thread, and you can probably get it to go all the way. But if you're gonna be doing more than one, thin plate isn't gonna work. And if you get one that's really stuck, it's not gonna work. The only thing that would make this whole setup better is if you could get a piece of grade 8 all thread all the way through, instead of having it split here. Because if you had grade 8 hardware, so if it went all the way up, that's fine thread, if that went the whole way through, it would make it easier to actually pull it all the way off. You'll kind of see what I'm talking about in a little bit. But I couldn't find anywhere, and sourcing it was kind of hard, and if I wanted to buy it, I had to buy a bundle of 50 pieces of all thread, 3 foot long, and I'm like, that's not really justifiable because I only need 6 small pieces. We'll go ahead and show you how this actually works. Fairly simple, nothing crazy. So we're gonna offset these. We're gonna put one on this side and one on this side so they're directly in line with each other, and we're gonna thread them in first just to give us a nice starting point. So those are gonna go in, and I like to get them kind of flush right on the back so you have a nice good bite. And then we're gonna take our little jam nuts right here, and we're gonna tighten those up. Nice thing is all this stuff is 9/16, so we can just tighten them up really nice, tight. From there, we're just gonna go ahead and thread in these other ones. So they don't have to be perfect, especially when you get your plate made, if you get the holes made a little bit larger for these, it gives you a little bit of wiggle room because you're gonna get some that are tweaked just a little bit, a little bit bent. So kind of get all them in there, set where they need to be set at. Again, they don't gotta be perfect. Good enough. Take your plate. Okay, so now we got that all in. We're just gonna thread these all back in. We're just gonna go around and tighten up all of these studs, or the nuts going into the studs, so that way they don't pull out. And we are gonna be good to go. So now what you can kind of see here is, one, we have 2 long studs, so we're gonna do most of the heavy lifting on these guys right here, these 2 up here and 2 on the bottom, because they're gonna be our stronger ones. And so they're gonna push and unscrew here, and we're just gonna loosen them up, technically, loosen these nuts, which is gonna force this plate up. What we're gonna do now is put our nut on here, tighten that down. Okay, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna take these and just tighten them up to where they need to be, because they're gonna do most of our load. What I do is I just give this about 2 turns, give this one about 2 turns once you get tension on it. I'm gonna come here. It's a slow process, nothing fast about it. See how that turns right there? We're just gonna go ahead and tighten that up. And then put this right here. Okay. Right now we're starting to end the actual end portion of our bolts here. So I'm going to start transitioning over to these 2 instead of these guys. So I'm going to go to this instead of these, and we should be able to pull it all the way out. Sometimes the other method here, what you can do is, if you don't have these longer pieces of all thread, if you take your hammer and you give this a couple good cracks, sometimes you can get this whole unit to pop up and out. But I'm going to use these to do a little bit more of a controlled pull. You can see this pinion's pretty darn cooked. Ta-da! Everything's nice. We get to keep the whole bearing and everything all intact, all as one unit, which is kind of nice. And so you don't have to take off all these nuts right here. If you can see the nuts right there, you don't have to take them off to use this puller. You can pull it out in one assembly. And this one's got some rust on the gears. Not sure if that can be cleaned up or if that has to be machined or what, but hey, they're there. So now you can just deconstruct everything, take it all down, and you're good to go. This way is a lot easier. It's a lot more user-friendly. You don't have a lot of fatigue. So if you have one, you can get away with a thin plate. If you got more than one, I would recommend getting a 1/2-inch plate. It's a lot easier. Regardless, I would probably just get 1/2 inch and save yourself the headache and the hassle up front. But I have another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 more of these Timkens to go to tear down. So this little handy tool is going to save me a lot of time and effort and fatigue. So hopefully it worked for you and you liked it and you enjoyed it. Let me know.